Hello everyone, welcome to Anime and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Over the course of their many different adventures, the Straw Hats have been able to make friends with incredibly strong and important pirates in the world, and have even managed to form a very large grand fleet. And this could actually increase in size because of the new dangers that are out on the horizon that are especially going to be important in this latest saga and final saga of One Piece. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the various pirate crews that might join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet during this final saga, why they may throw their lot in with the Straw Hats, and what enemies they may be looking to face with the rest of the team. But before we start looking through crew resumes and CVs, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like or even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or your favorite with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into this video. So my friends, as we know, our favorite rubber captain, Monkey D. Luffy, has the uncanny ability to make friends and even has shown the ability to turn enemies or former enemies into his allies. And this has allowed him to build a cohort of people that would fight on his side and people who at least would be willing not to fight against him in the future. As we enter this final saga of One Piece, we know we're going to have to see the Straw Hat crew making alliances with various other crews around the world. And this is going to be because this large threat that looms out on the horizon is going to be something that not only the Straw Hats, but possibly the rest of the world are going to have to face together because it is going to be a common enemy. So let's talk a little bit about the various crews that might join Luffy, what reasons they may have for making the alliance, and who they may want to face in the future. And we're going to start our list with the Empress Boa Hancock. Initially, Hancock possessed a huge hatred for Luffy because he was a man, but when she realized that Luffy was able to resist her charms, she began to create a certain curiosity for him. But even so, she still kinda initially kept this anger and hatred towards Luffy, refusing to believe that Luffy had actually been sent on purpose to Kuja Island by Bartholomew Kuma. She decides to take Luffy's life because what she thought is that he was like all the other men in the world, selfish and arrogant. But Luffy proved her wrong, and she was even moved by the Straw Hat Boy's acts of selflessness. Upon seeing how Luffy covered his sister's back when she was fighting so no one would ever see the mark of the world nobles on her, this quickly turned Hancock's feeling towards him. And when he chose to save Marguerite, Sweet Pea, and Alphalandra, rather than benefit himself, this really sealed the deal. So due to Luffy's bravery, selflessness, and just honestly good heart, Hancock ended up falling in love with him, causing her to get the love sickness virus, or love sickness that we've heard that happens among the leaders of the Kuja tribe. And it was responsible for eventually taking the lives of almost all of the previous empresses. Because of her feelings for Luffy, Hancock has difficulty looking Luffy in the eye and tends to blush even when in his presence. She even creates fictional stories in her head involving Luffy. Even though Luffy, at least so far, has said that he doesn't plan on marrying Hancock and doesn't want to, she still loves him very much and isn't shy about it one bit, even shouting out at times that they will get married one day. During the Battle of the Best in Marineford, Hancock even stated that all men, both Marines and pirates, were her enemies, and Luffy is the only exception. And even after finding out about Luffy's relatives, she put that aside and didn't care if he was the son of the revolutionary Monkey D. Dragon. Hancock is also extremely protective of Luffy, going so far as to attack Smoker for restraining Luffy, to the shock of the other Marines that were looking on, and she even openly declared Luffy to be her beloved. Since Luffy's arrival in Marineford, all Hancock could do was try to get his attention in some way or another, besides exploding with rage whenever he was attacked and trembling with fear when she couldn't tell if he was alright. This love for Luffy was such that she could barely eat any food on her return to Amazon Lily. And it was until she was absolutely sure that Luffy was okay that she even decided to eat. But then again, she also ordered as much food as possible so he could recover. After the time skip, Hancock even helped Luffy get back and reunite with his crew, although she was still saddened by his departure, but all the while she wished him luck on his new journey. After the invasion of Amazon Lily, where the Marines and the Blackbeard pirates showed up, Hancock realized that her country is not very safe as long as she stays there. So she may have decided to reunite with Luffy, which means soon they'll be together again. One thing that gives a really good credence to the idea that Hancock will sign on and join forces with Luffy is that they both have the common goal to defeat Blackbeard. Because we know that Teach caused some immensely huge problems for Luffy, because he was the one responsible for eventually leading Ace to lose his life. I mean, after all, Teach did capture him, besides the fact that he just recently captured Kobe during the invasion of Amazon Lily. So whether it's their mutual enemy or the fact that Hancock is still very much in love with Luffy, we have a really good idea that the Straw Hats and the Kuja Pirates will be able to make an alliance and together strengthen each other's crew. Moving on to another character that might throw their lot in with the Straw Hats, because of this greater focus that we recently seen in the manga, is of course Bonnie. Now, she's still really a mysterious character due to the fact that we really don't know much about her. What we do know is that somehow she is either friends or has some kind of deep connection to Kuma, as well as having a mysterious connection to the world government that really hasn't been fully explained. So this means that she's a character that not only has an interesting past, but may give us greater detail about things that the world government has been up to. Also, aside from the information that Bonnie may be able to reveal about Kuma or the world government at large, we also have to remember that she was actually at the revelry under the alias of the widow Connie, using her devil fruit powers to age her body up to prevent people from recognizing who she really was. For all we know, she too could have seen Eames sitting on the empty throne just like Kobe did, but with her devil fruit powers, she was just able to stay out of sight a lot better. So now that Bonnie is at least joined up, at least physically, with the Straw Hats on Vegapunk's island, Bonnie is likely, at least temporarily, but maybe more permanently, gonna join the Straw Hats because they're gonna have common enemies, especially Teach and Akainu, who are two enemies that Bonnie and Luffy have in common. Teach was the one responsible for defeating all of Bonnie's pirates and crewmates, as well as alerting the Marines to where she was, which led to Akainu being responsible for the capture and almost managed to learn who she was. However, Bonnie was able to escape, and now we'll get to learn how she managed to do all this. Another pirate and crew that is likely to team up with the Straw Hats is of course Eustace Kid, and for one thing is because they already teamed up with Law during the Wano War. Now, Kid sees Luffy as a rival and sees that he's a barrier for him to become the next pirate king as well, because he and Luffy are after the same title, and even went so far as to state that they were enemies in the New World after the Battle of Marineford. However, over the course of our story, Luffy's actually gained Kid's interest and maybe even his respect, with everything that he's done against the world government, or him assaulting a world noble and punching him out, being the only supernova to even join in the Battle of the Best. Kid got to see what happened there on that battlefield. Following the time skip, Kid had expressed really amusement at watching Luffy's capture in Punk Hazard, and later showed some immense curiosity about the fact that Luffy and Law had formed an alliance and what they were planning to do on defeating Doflamingo and Kaido. During our most recent Wano War, after Kid and Luffy were defeated separately by Kaido at different times, they found themselves in the same prison in the land of Wano over in Udon, and Kid and Luffy ended up becoming competitive with each other and argued constantly about who'd done more work inside the prison. But despite this rivalry, they cooperated to defeat Vice Warden Dobon after he had confronted them and tried to punish them for taking most of the prison rations. Luffy also showed some concern for Kid when Queen threatened to drown him. After the breakout in Udon prison, Luffy offered an alliance to defeat Kaido, but Kid rejected the offer as he still felt bitter about being betrayed during his previous alliance with Apu and Hawkins, who ended up joining Kaido after Kaido had confronted the three of them. However, he ended up joining Luffy in the end, and of course Law in the battle against the Beast Pirates, not wanting Luffy to get all the glory by defeating Kaido by himself. So Law, Luffy, and Kid ended up teaming up to defeat Kaido and Big Mom. After the victory in Wano, despite his increased bounty, Kid's rivalry and general resentment towards Luffy remained strong, and he continued to threaten him, and it's mostly probably because Luffy ended up getting the title of Yonko and he didn't. Also, despite frequent denials about seeing Luffy as an ally, Kid apparently trusts the Straw Hat Captain's strength. I mean, while fighting Big Mom alone, Kid was visibly pleased to learn that Luffy, even knocked out, would not give up until he beat Kaido. Even after hearing the announcement that Luffy had lost his life to Kaido, Kid seemed to lose hope briefly, but was determined to keep fighting to the end anyway. So a future alliance between them could easily happen in the future, and this would allow them to face these powerful enemies together again. Because even if there's no other, at least outward reason, Kid is is not going to let Luffy take on an entity like the world government or the Marines to get all the glory. Sure, he's going to come and complain and grumble and him and ha and all that, but he's going to eventually still side up with Luffy because he knows that Luffy is on the right side and still respects him, even if he won't say it out loud. Speaking of our other captain in the fight in Wano, Law would also be of a great help during these final confrontations that's gonna happen. Now, initially, the Straw Hats didn't trust Law, and they weren't exactly on board with the alliance with him at first, particularly Usopp, Nami, and Chopper. And although Robin supported Luffy's choice, she also warned him about a possible betrayal. But on the other hand, Zoro approved of Law's goal of defeating one of the Yonko, while Brook, Sanji, and Frankie eventually accepted Luffy's decision. But along their journey together, Law ended up creating a certain level of friendship with Luffy and the other Straw Hats, becoming almost a crew member of the ship as they went to various places with a single objective: to defeat and bring down Kaido. With the defeat of R2, Yonko, and Onigashima, Law said goodbye to the Straw Hats, saying that the next time they met, they would be enemies again. But Law could be like Kid, just saying it to spite them and kinda act tough. Because although Law comes across as a very serious person, I mean, after all, he is the Surgeon of Death, Law has a good heart, which means that in the future, Law and Luffy could easily end up forming an alliance again because of the evil in this huge enemy that awaits them in the future. And the final crew we're going to talk about is Capone Beige. Now, initially, he despised Luffy and his crew for the trouble that they caused him inside of the archipelago. During the Zou arc, it was Beige who participated in the mission to capture Caesar Clown, as well as bring Sanji to Big Mom's tea party for him to marry Pudding. Beige was ruthless as he carried out his mission, despite Peckham's differing opinions, and he chained up the Straw Hats, minus Sanji, whom he had to treat with care in his own body. Despite these past conflicts, Beige still seemed willing to ally with the Straw Hats to achieve their common goal of defeating Big Mom, even if it didn't seem like the most logical choice at the time. After successfully escaping the Whole Cake Chateau, Beige parted ways with the Straw Hats on good terms, and even risked his life by luring Big Mom away from the Straw Hats with the wedding cake. And Beige ended up commenting that he would never forgive the Straw Hats if they lost their lives, especially since he'd gone to all that trouble. Once both crews were free and clear of Toddleland, Beige was seen being annoyed with Luffy because he was named the mastermind of his plan, but he still maintains a good thought about who Luffy and the Straw Hats are. So he may also join up with the Straw Hats in their grand fleet because they need to not only defeat another Yonko, but they may have admirals or something even bigger awaiting them in the future. But with all that said, my friends, we'd love to know what you think about it now. Who do you think might join up with the Straw Hats? And even if they weren't part of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, what other crews and individuals do you think might team up for this big bad that awaits us in this final saga? Secondly, do you think that Law and Kid will actually join back up, or do you think they're gonna end up on the other side? And finally, do you think Bonnie will actually do it? And what other information could Jewelry Bonnie have for us now that she's at least kinda teamed up by necessity with the Straw Hats here on the islands of Vegapunk? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, I want to thank you all so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like or hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.